Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of the podcast. I'm joined with an amazing guest, Mr. Joe Jekel.
Happy to be here today.
Joe is a human optimization specialist and lifelong advocate for personal growth and performance excellence who has dedicated his life to helping others evolve, excel, and lead with purpose. Joe is a passionate Joe about empowering individuals and teams to break through barriers and achieve their highest potential. As the founder of Mobius Pheonix Coaching, Joe's mission is to help you push beyond limits and design the life you deserve through offering NLP certifications and high-performance coaching. Moreover, he is the author of Best is Temporary, Be Better, and believes in the power of resilience, adaptability, and continuous improvement in every area of life. His goal has always been the same: to help people become their best, most capable self. If you're ready to take your life, career, or team to the next level, feel free to connect with Joe on LinkedIn, where you can create a strategy to achieve excellence and build a future you're proud of. Some of the services that he offers is one-on-one coaching for human optimization and one-on-one coaching NLP Master Coach. I am honored to have you as a guest today. How are you?
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming and your time for today's episode. That was a very lengthy introduction. So can you please tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, you hit a lot on the head. My name's Joe Jekel, and I'm from the USA. I've been living in Thailand for the last 6 years. I've authored a few personal development books, and I'm a high performance human optimization coach. I've worked with many specialized clients around the world, internationally, athletes, police, military, CEOs, startup companies, and Girl Scout cookie salespeople. So I've worked from very beginning levels of need to very high achieved levels of need. And I believe that the principles are the same, but the specifics are a little bit different, of course.
So I mentioned in the introduction about Mobius Phoenix Coaching, which is something that you've started, and it's something that is your brand, something that you've built from the bottom. So my question to you is, what inspired you to create and bring Mobius Phoenix Coaching to life, and what was the process of bringing it out?
Interesting question. I've always been in the training and self-discovery, personal development, performance enhancement field, more than 25 years now, actually. And I had a business called Mad Zook Wellness in America with my prior wife, and we have so we that business had retired, and we let that business go. After COVID, I was here in Thailand, and I really saw a lot of things with the world. Just there was a big gap, not only in the younger generation that had missed, you know, 2, 3 years of schooling or interaction. I saw the world in a position to where I needed to do something responsible again. So I needed to be able to, as Einstein says, the failure of good people to act is where bad things happen. And so basically, I realized I have a responsibility to share knowledge that I have with people. And you could keep that knowledge and take it to your grave. And sure, I can be, wow, the infinite wisdom. But what good does that do for humanity that actually needs people to provide this to them? So without sounding arrogant, I knew that I had something to give. And I felt that it was my duty to give it. And so I set up Mobius Phoenix. And so Mobius is the infinite band. It's the figure 8 symbol. And basically, it's a symbol for infinity. It has no beginning and no ending. and it runs forever. It's also a mathematical anomaly. It's a 2D figure that appears 3D. It's the only one of it in its kind. Even the great Fibonacci couldn't figure out how this could be. And so it's unique and it means infinite. And the phoenix is an immortal mythical creature that when things go bad, it just scorched earth, even itself, because it just rebuilds itself stronger in the next generation. It just keeps coming back. It's immortal. So when things are difficult or tough or not optimal, the phoenix just destroys all of the distractions, all the barriers, just destroys them and comes back stronger. The true symbol of resilience. So Mobius Pheonix is an infinite ability to recreate yourself in an optimized form. That's where the name came from, and that's the intention of Mobius Pheonix.
That sounds amazing. I really like how you said about the infinite symbol and how there's no start, like there's no ending to it. I think that's really inspirational because when you're doing a service like coaching, oftentimes you're always, like you mentioned, there's 8 billion people on the world. You're always going to impact one life or another. It's never going to have a ending point because there's so much guidance you can give, and someone like you who's very experienced in the field, and I mentioned in the introduction about your passion and how you want to empower individuals and teams to break through barriers and achieve their highest potential. So where did this
Yeah.
passion come from, and how do you and your services at Mobius Pheonix Coaching help bring your passion that you have to life?
Well, being American, sports was like ingrained in our society, and we have recreational and competitive leagues for every sport you can think of. I mean, beanbag tossing, curling, you name it, we have a sport, right? And we have many organizations, the Boys and Girls Clubs of America, the YMCA's, many city municipalities have leagues, and they have the opportunity for the American youth to be involved in sports. And sports teaches you a lot of lessons. It teaches you the power of an individual because who's the superstar and who's not. And so you look at the reality of I'm in control. I can make myself stronger. And you get the same option. You run the same wind sprints, you do the same exercises. Now, there's always going to be someone better looking, smarter, stronger, faster. There's always going to be that in life for all of us. But you can strengthen yourself. And that's the power. That's the power, is you can strengthen yourself. You can be better. Everyone can be better. The title of the book, Best is Temporary, Be Better, is because when people started saying live your best life, I had this question: who tells me I'm the best? Someone else? And well, does everyone think I'm the best? How can I be the best unless I'm actually the best? So living my best life is a temporary state. It's a finality. Best is an ending point. And according to Mobius, there is no ending point. And every day I can be better. Every day you can be better. Every day everyone can be better. Right? So best is temporary. Be better. And this is where I found that passion. I decided that people are so focused on trying to be the best that they've forgotten how to become better.
Wow, I love that statement that you said, like, people forgot how to be the best, but they can always be better. And there's never an ending point to being the best. I think that's an amazing way to phrase it because, like you said, we can always be better every day, and that's what people strive for. You know, my audience who are watching this, they love to better themselves. They have high ambitions. And for you, you also demonstrate high excellence because you completed your degree in sports and performance psychology. You studied that. And that has been, I guess, somewhat beneficial to you in this field? Because, like you said, in your society, it's being ingrained. So not only do you connect with your society, but you also get a better understanding through psychology of how to coach people. And I'm pretty sure that all this kind of connect and relate together. So my question to you is, how has this study of sports and performance psychology helped you understand performance excellence better and the ability to guide individuals towards reaching their optimal potential?
So history and future are, separated entities, right? And our futures depend on our histories. And so I was blessed enough to really dive deep into human behavior and psychology. Psychology is the study of human behavior. It's not the study of the brain. The study of the brain is neurology, right? And oftentimes people will get this confused that neurology is this fantasized type of science, and psychology is the study of the brain. Psychology is the study of behavior. And so when you talk about performance psychology, it's the adaptations of the behaviors that I'm looking to set up. And when I can set those behaviors in motion, then the neurological advances start to take place. Now, back when I started in school, neurology was some fantasy thing. They didn't really, it was a not real sought after field. Now it is the be all end all field. And if I could ever offer words of encouragement or advice to anyone, especially someone intellectual, study neuropsychology, study neurology, because this is the be all end all, the alpha and the omega. Because nothing, let me say it again, nothing happens without a neuron initiating the process. Nothing. No muscle innervation, no thought, no feeling. Nothing happens without a neuron. So we need neurology to guide us to the higher plane. And so I think performance psychology is valuable for understanding behaviors, motivation, discipline, these types of things. But when you get really at the heart of science of high performance, it's neurology. And so I incorporate more neurology and kinesiology and physiology into Mobius Pheonix trainings. I want it to be a more whole type of training. And psychology has a lot of benefits, and a lot of people, they think negative when they think of psychology. They'll think, oh, nothing's wrong with me. Well, of course not. However, if your behaviors are not getting you the results that you want, then maybe behavior modification processes will work. But what if you modify these behavior processes, but your intensity, your physiology wasn't there? Or you can think it and feel it, but you can't actually do it. Your kinesiology isn't there. Neurology sits on top of all of those. So the real key is to understand how the neurons affect every decision you make, every option that you're allowed to consider and act upon. So I think the psychology, performance psychology, was a very good foundation for me at its time. But as I too evolve and as people evolve, I think that it's a baseline. And I think that now neuropsychology is really where you need to focus. You need to understand why we do the things we do. And that comes from the brain.
I think my audience would appreciate those words of advice and how you said like kinesiology, psychology, neurology, how they all come together. And I think that no matter what anyone studies, there's always going to be some overlap with another study. And that's the great thing about education is that the horizon is unlimited. Like you can be in one field, but then you can touch upon many different fields. And in Mobius Phoenix as well, I'm pretty sure that it's not always about psychology, even though that's what you studied. And
Yeah.
a, a lot of people think that psychology is only limiting about the brain, but it's much more than that. And I'm glad
Yes.
that you went into more detail, and the words of advice was something that I hope my audience can take from this interview section of the podcast. So, going a bit more detailed into your background,
Mhm.
you spent 15 years as a sport and performance psychology consultant before you transitioned to where you are now in becoming an NLP top coach. What was that experience like, and was the shift something that you planned?
Absolutely not. It's quite funny irony, I guess. So the benefit of studying psychology and having so there's in the master's level, there's a master of arts or there's a master of science, and the requirements are different. Yeah. So all of my background is in science and instead of the art. And so the art is understanding how it happened, and the science is furthering the field to continue to make it happen. And so there's a for those of you that are in college or planning to go to college, there's a specific different track in a science or an arts connotation. And so as you go through this, when excuse me, I knew all this science, I knew all this research. I'm actually a certified human researcher in the U.S. and it may have expired by now because it's been several years, but I was a CITI certified human researcher, and so there's laws. There's the Nuremberg laws, and there's something called the Belmont Doctrine, and there's these rules for conducting experiments with humans, yeah, and especially in the social science field. And so I had a certification which allowed me the authorization to be part of these types of things. And so I didn't believe in NLP. NLP came out when I was, just starting my journey with college and, all of that back in the 80s. And it looked like just a bunch of hippies from Northern California created this thing. And man, it was just pseudoscience. It was junk, hypnotizing people and doing all that. Oh, come on, what are you talking about? I'm in real science here. I don't need this stuff. And as it turns out, the US military spent $1 trillion on how to use these neurological advances, hypnotizing people, epigenetics, brain waves, altered states of reality. The list goes on. There's a place called the Monroe Institute. There's many now released projects that the CIA was involved in and the US military and the US government were involved in, specifically about mind control or altering the mind to do specific things. And so I thought, well, wow, okay. I started to pay a little bit more attention. But then this guy, Tony Robbins, came along, and he's this big charismatic guy, and he's actually the first billionaire coach, by the way. And many people model him. And then I asked myself the question over those decades, 100,000 people will go into a stadium and watch this guy talk, but 20 of them come out and actually improve their life. I don't understand. Some of them will take the same course over and over and over and over and over again, but yet they don't take the actions to make the changes. So I watch a course and I see him. And again, growing up in the US, we have these evangelical preachers, and they fill these church halls with tens of thousands of people, the followers, the faithful, the believers, and they come and the Catholic Church and many of these other institutions that are out there, you pay, you give a donation, and you're going to get some kind of spiritual behest to you, and that's great for the person that believes that, and it's very valid for the person that believes that. But I was skeptical because man of science, so I need to see the evidence. Yeah, I have to see it. So I look and I look and I look and I thought, man, this isn't real. This is just charisma. It's theater, and unfortunately that sells, and sales mean money, and money is equated to success. So people think, wow, and success is equated to intelligence. But there's a ton of very wealthy people that have been successful that aren't very intelligent. Yeah. So it doesn't necessarily mean that that's true. So that was my thinking. And I thought, it's okay. I have plenty of clients. I don't care about being a well-known notoriety coach and speaker. That's not for me. I just want to help people, and I want to just take my clients, and that's okay. I want real. And so then I retired. I wrote a book. I got a little disenchanted with the direction that psychology was going. And psychology started in its roots and its origins all the way back to Freud, would go up and it would go down, and it would go up and it would go down. And there was, good actions and products and results. And then there was some things that, there was darker sides of psychology and institutionalizing people and human testing that created all of these rules that you can and can't do now. And so, it's not like it's been a perfect science, but it was a science. And even the dark side was something that generated the evidence. And so now I'm looking at this neuro-linguistic programming, and I'm wondering, wow, what's the science behind it? It's more just a hypnotic trance type of thing. And so I was kind of against it, and I didn't really like it. And after being retired, I bought a hotel in Phuket, Thailand, on a famous fight trading street called Soi Thayed. And there's CrossFit, and there's all kinds of other trainings that are here. And so, wow. So as I open my office there, I sit in it, and people come by, and I had a big sign out there for, performance psychology. And it's big in the US and Japan and Korea and many, westernized, or they all know Tony Robbins, and they all know these. There's a couple in Bangkok and a couple of really good NLP instructors that are around the area, and they all know NLP. And they would come into my office and they'd be like, yeah, hey, do you know NLP? And I'd be like, oh, what? And they'd be like, NLP. And I don't want to say, no, it's junk, to the proposed client who believes in NLP, right? So I said, well, I can show you some things that are maybe going to be a little bit more advanced, And they're like, what do you mean? And I'd be like, well, in psychology and neuroscience. Like, oh, no, I don't need any of that. Nothing's wrong with me. I just want NLP. And I was like, okay. So I fly to Bangkok and I take an NLP course, honestly, just to get the letters NLP and put them on my sign, because I think, okay, people don't know what they don't know. So when they come in to talk to me about NLP, I have a certification. Yes, I'm certified in NLP, but I'll show them other things that'll work better. And I go to the course and I take the course, and I'm amazed. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, why I didn't do this 20 years ago, right? It's simplistic. It's very complex simplicity. It reaches the neuroscience, and it accomplishes so much that evidence-backed science shows. But NLP doesn't tell you what it's doing. It just scripts it. It just does it. And so it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 process. And there's things like the Milton model and the meta model. And during this certification process, I realized I had a breakthrough. And I thought to myself, wow, I could try to prove this wrong. And in science, they call that the null hypothesis. When you design research, you can't ever prove something is true, because circumstances can change. But if you prove something is false, then it's false, right? So you use what's called the null hypothesis. So if you want to test something, you use the opposite. You try to prove it false. You don't try to prove it true. Because if you set up a test design and you can prove it false, then it's false. The results will tell you. But if you set up something to prove it's true, you don't know that you've accounted for every variable that could make it false. So this is called the null hypothesis. And so I looked at that from that point, and I thought, okay, I can't be wrong on this, right? I mean, I'm amazed and I feel good, but am I just feeling the snake oil? Am I? And the guy was a very good presenter. He's very charismatic as well. He actually worked for Tony Robbins for several years. And so I was like, hey, how do I prove this wrong? And every night I'd come back to the hotel room and I'd try to look for it. I couldn't prove it wrong. And so I thought to myself, wow. And every time I looked deeper, it showed me how much more effective it was. Now, don't get me wrong. There's not any tool in the world that's going to be effective for every person, right? And NLP is the same. But it's highly effective for many people that are seeking change. By the way, I don't like the word change. I like the word evolve. Change means there's something wrong. Evolve means I'm leaving the parts behind that I've learned from, and I'm learning more. And so at Mobius Pheonix, we use the word evolve rather than change. And so these evolutions started taking place. And I realized, wow, this is awesome. And then the owner of the company talked to me and he said, hey, you're an intelligent guy. I looked at your background and, we had this, can we go to dinner? So I said, sure. So we go to dinner and he tells me he read my book. And I at first didn't believe him. I said, no, you just looked up on a bio. And then he started talking about sections of the book. Wow, he did read it. And so he said, I didn't realize that I had read this book and you're sitting in my class getting certified in NLP. And I said, yeah. So we hit it off pretty good. And he said, look, wow, I want to open a corporate training section. And I don't really have a lot of, heavily qualified people, but post-COVID, there's a lot of companies now wanting to retrain their people. Would you be interested? And at first I said no. I said, I'm staying in Phuket. I don't really want to come to Bangkok. And then after about 5 or 6 months, I went and took the master's. And then I went and become a trainer to where I could certify people myself. And I just took the road down this NLP road. And I really like what I've learned from it and how effective it is for the masses. And so you can learn in 1 week, 10 days, 3 weeks, things that I took 7, 8 years in college to learn. Now, yes, I learned a lot more detail, and yes, I learned a lot of other things. However, if you're hungry and you eat a banana, you're not hungry anymore. You don't have to go eat a steak every time you're hungry, right? So more people would just rather grab a banana and be done in an hour than they would go drive, find a steak, spend the money, and take all the time. So I realized, look, you're going to reach a lot more people. And remember, my whole purpose and even coming back into the field was to reach the people that I feel have been neglected of the knowledge. And so, wow, here's a tool that I can help them with this great knowledge and help them evolve and make their lives better. So I ended up with doing NLP. I still use a lot of psychology and neurology and other aspects of things that I know in the corporate trainings or in the one-on-one coaching. But the NLP certification courses that I teach I don't put anything else but NLP in them. And that's according to the rules of the American Board of NLP and the Society of NLP. So, but you get a wealth of great information in these classes. And if I had to say to somebody one thing, you could take one thing to make you a better communicator and to actually improve your quality of life, I would say NLP. And as much as I despise math, I would say, being very good in understanding mathematics would also be something that would improve the quality of life. Although I never believed that when I was in school. So that's how I ended up from performance psychology into NLP.
That's a very detailed way to describe your journey, and there was a lot that went into that. Some people might think the transition was maybe overnight or something that took maybe a few days, but it's the steps and how you went to the course and you went to dinner with him. He read your book. He properly read your book, even though you probably thought he did. And I'm sure that a lot of people who are my audience have read the book or are interested in reading the book. And it has been beneficial not only for your transition, like you explained in your journey, but also in terms of your personal growth, I assume.
Yes.
So, with writing and that particular book, or just writing in general, has it been beneficial to your personal growth? And looking towards the future, do you want to continue to write and explore different topics?
Yes, to all the above. So writing it's affected my personal growth. Writing the book the first book was a very detailed experience. It took me a year because I was trying to look for perfection, and you just can't. You just need to write it and let other people determine or decide what they think or don't think about it. And you, I've been instructing people on the aspects of journaling, and many people know what journaling is, but there's some specific journals that I would use with Madzuk, and now I use with Mobius Pheonix. And these are an accomplishment journal, which very first thing in the morning, I want you to write your accomplishments, right? What have you accomplished, or what do you want to accomplish today? And then at night, the last act before you go to bed, and this is very important for neurology, the last act before you go to bed, don't get back on your phone, don't do anything. Write and write physically. Don't type it on a phone, don't type it on a Word document. Write it in a booklet and write down every positive thing that happened to you that day. It's called a positive reflection journal. And what that does is it programs your neurons to think positively. So when you're sleeping in your subconscious mind, it's replaying all the positive things. So when you wake up and you set your accomplishments and you validate your accomplishments, then you start the day finding ways to accomplish things, and you start to look for the positive signs that you see because you want to write something at night in your positive reflection journal. So you just start to dismiss the negatives and absolutely notice the positives where you probably didn't see them before. And so this practice is really good and a very good journaling practice. So by talking to people about journaling for so long, and I would keep journals myself, I started to write a book. And boy, it's difficult. I mean, I wrote the outline, and then you have to find the chapters, and then you have to write the content in each chapter. You have to determine the order of where the chapters should go. And wow, that was tough. So I started and stopped a few times during the year. And then as luck would have it, or grit would have it, or the idea of never quitting, I was able to finish it, and it really helped me personally to accomplish that. And it also, the content generation that I had to acquire to write it also helped me very beneficially. And I do think of writing more. And as that was my plan, was to actually just to write some more and stay retired. But now that I've started the company, the writing is a little bit on the second tier. And I hope to actually have two books outlined already, one on resilience, and then another one just on some specific NLP techniques. And and so I'm hoping to get the outlines completed of those, and maybe get through the chapter selection process before the end of the year. And if I can come out with one before the Christmas break, then I will try, and we'll see how time allows.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we should stay tuned for that. My audience will definitely have a look at that and do let them know. I'm sure that they will want to check you out on LinkedIn and other platforms to see if, you published the book or not. And I'm sure they'll be excited to read because of like all you shared in the podcast and your experience, your journey. And you mentioned we talked a little bit about writing and journaling for personal growth. But sticking to Mobius Phoenix, you don't just inspire growth, but you ignite breakthroughs, which I think is really important as well.
Mhm.
For you, what was the biggest breakthrough in your life, and how has that made you grow as a person?
Yeah, so being older, there's I've been blessed and to have a few breakthroughs that have affected my life. But if I was to say like the top one, I would probably say the realization, and it was in my 30s, and my business was starting to be successful, and I had a couple of other businesses, a training center and some gyms and some other things, and I had about 40 people working for me, and I had two kids and was married at the time. And the reality that I'm not a kid anymore, that, there's so many people depending on what I do that day. And it's not just me. And even today, I see it a lot, not just in young people, even in people 40 plus, that their whole life is centered just around them. And I'm not saying that's bad, that's okay, However, the biggest breakthrough for me was realizing that it's not just my life. And when I make myself better, I make other people's lives better. If I make a bad choice, or I decide to be lazy, or I don't want to do something that day, there's a lot of people affected by it. So the biggest breakthrough for me was the link there to humanity, to realize that not just my own thing, because you go from being alone and you're growing up, and you in the West we part ways from our families, when we hit 18 and whoa, independent, and we go do our thing. And so I started that path, and life was about myself, freedom and choices, and what I wanted to do, and I'm on a mission, and no one else really mattered. And then I got married, and oh well, okay, now I'm thinking for two. And then we had kids. Oh, now I'm thinking for four. And then we started business, and all of a sudden there's staff and employees and their needs and their kids that are sick. And how much do they get paid? And what's their lifestyle like? And what are they contributing? All of these things got mixed into the soup. And I was still furthering my education myself. Uh-oh, wow, my actions aren't just about me anymore. My actions are about a lot of people, directly and indirectly. So I think that was probably the biggest breakthrough, is that I'm responsible for my actions, but my actions are responsible for other people's lifestyles.
Not only are you responsible for your own actions, you mentioned that you're responsible for others' actions as well. And with
Yes.
Mobius Phoenix, you're responsible for building lions. People who um, come to get coached by you and take up your service at Mobius Phoenix, they all want to aspire at the end of the session to become a lion and to be built as a lion. So, what does becoming a lion mean to you, and how has this influenced your mindset?
So becoming a lion means to me the 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 mindset to win. And when I say that, there's a lot of people out there, especially in the emotional intelligence world, and then the lovey-feely kinds of side of psychology and coaching. And there should be a place for that. And there's tons of people, 8 billion of them in the world, remember? And so no, nothing is going to be right or resonate with everyone. For me, I think the higher performer, as I just mentioned with my first breakthrough, I believe that the person that performs at a higher level is able to affect a lot more people. I feel the person that says they understand people is not really facilitating their growth. They're contributing maybe to their recognition of where they need areas to growth. But telling someone to accept something, in my view, isn't exactly beneficial for them, because what you're telling them to accept might be something that you need to remove or that they need to remove. And we talk a lot about mindset. And there's a famous psychologist named Carol Dweck. She wrote the book, Growth Mindset. And so it's a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And I don't believe that a fixed mindset where you think that, if I just tell you your worth, it'll be okay for you. I don't. I think that's okay in some situations, but I don't think that that's how the world evolves, and I don't think that that's how any individual becomes empowered. And so I think becoming a lion is all about your ability to focus on winning. If that lion doesn't win, if the hyenas win, or another lion wins, or a hunter wins, that lion's whole pride is disbanded. They're in trouble. And and you think about history. Who writes the stories of history? The winners, right? Now, everyone in the last 20 years has started to apply this negative connotation to winning, and at what point did winning become bad? I've never met anyone in my life that comes up and says, "Hey, I'm going to lose today and I'm okay with it." Never, not one. And there's a sufficiency mindset where it's good enough. But if it's good enough, then tomorrow is it lower good enough and lower good enough and lower good enough? It's a law of diminishing returns when we only look for the middle. So we have these outliers, these higher performers. And anyone that wants to become a higher performer, they're said, will model the higher performer. But if there's no one out there focused on winning, who is the person going to model? So I believe you empower people to become a lion, to have a mindset to win. Now, winning doesn't mean that you're pushing other people down. I don't have to beat someone else to win. I have to beat myself. I have to have the mindset to win. And I want to win, but I didn't say I want to win at all costs. I didn't say I want to win at someone else's expense. I said I want to win, and I want to develop a way to win. And that's what a lion does. They win.
I guess an additional question to that, like you mentioned mindset and like the winning, that winning attitude. So does is mindset, in your opinion, the most important thing to achieve success? And is that like the difference maker in terms of those who achieve a lot and those that don't really achieve? Like, how important is that obsession of winning that you talked about?
It's everything. Well, I mean, an obsession with winning, you know, uh, um, it's important. But mindset, the question of mindset is everything. If you have a mindset to just accept what happens to you, you're living in effect. You're blaming others. You're blaming others for your success. You're blaming others for your loss. But if you're living in cause, you're creating your success. And you understand anytime there's a loss, you take it as a lesson. So there's five things in the world that prohibit human optimization, and I call them the five dark warriors. They've been known by many names by other people. I call them the five dark warriors of human performance, and they are negative thinking, negative emotion, inner conflict, limiting belief, and bad habits or bad behaviors. So with the right mindset, a winning mindset, negative thinking becomes positive thinking because I stopped thinking about losing, which is a negative thought. I stopped thinking about what else someone has done to me or what is bad to me. And I start thinking about how I can make my life better. Negative emotion, and those are generally um, fear, anger, um, you know, resentment, these types of things that are you envy, yeah, and you start to have these emotions. Why? Why are you afraid of winning, right? And if you're afraid of another competitor, right, or something has caused this emotion inside of you, this sorrow or this apathy, you have to address this because if you can create the mindset, you can turn a negative emotion into a new and empowering belief, then the way forward is to look, how can I win? How can I, and when I say win, it signifies a competition, but that's not the point. The point is, how do I win myself? How do I make myself better? Right. And then there's inner conflict. I really want to do this, but I really think I can only, I mean, but I also really want to do this. Yeah. So which one is more important? An example would be, I really want to have my freedom and independence, but I also really want to raise a family, right? Well, that's an inner conflict, yeah. And so you're going to have to ultimately decide how to do both or how to do it. So what steps could you take to be able to create the life that you want to create, right? Limiting beliefs, and this is the number one. I'm not good enough. I'm too old. I'm not rich enough. They're better than me. There's all these limiting beliefs, and I got news for you. All limiting beliefs are lies, except for the person that believes them, right? Because you're never too old. You're never too young. And someone is always going to have more or less than you. So the question is, if I'm 65, how do I win? If I'm 18, how do I win? Right? So how do I overcome limiting beliefs and make them empowering beliefs. That's mindset. And that's a desire to be the better version of myself, because best is not, it's a final point. It's not a destination. Being better is the destination, is the journey. And being best is the destination. So I want to overcome these limiting beliefs. And finally, the bad habits and bad behaviors. You know, everyone gets guilty of these things, and you just have to look at what serves you and what doesn't. And if you want to win, you're going to not do the things that make you lose. But if you are okay with losing, then you can rationalize the bad habit or the bad behavior. But if you live in cause, you say, wait a minute, I'm not winning because of XYZ. You eliminate XYZ because you're thinking about how to win. So mindset really is everything.
In your self-discovery coaching session, you it's great that you mentioned like mindset. I really like how you mentioned that last point where it's like XYZ. And if you're so focused on winning, you don't even think of the obstacles and the hurdles that might come in the way because you're willing to do whatever it takes to win. And I also believe that mindset is really important, how you reprogram your mind, what you say to yourself, because it definitely makes a difference on how you project life and how you take initiative to circumstances, you take opportunities. And for you, some of your services that you offer include your self-discovery coaching session, where you empower individuals to greatness in 60 minutes. What can participants or people who are interested, such as my audience watching this episode, can gain from this session? And how is this session structured to address the five dark warriors that you talked about?
Yeah. So in a self-discovery session, basically, um, human optimization is a linear process, and it's 3 steps. And the first one is self-discovery. You have to know who you are before you can decide who you want to become. And you have to candidly and honestly assess that. And then there's personal development, and that's the plan, the action steps that you take to win. That's how am I going to become who I want to become? And you put the process in motion. Now you're going through the process, but we're not always going to be the really good at the steps in the process. And this is where the third phase, the performance enhancement, comes in, because then we become really good at the process that we've set out based on what we've discovered. You cannot reach number 3 without number 1. Impossible, right? Because I want performance enhancement. For what? I just want to be better. At what? Why? How can we do it? Where will we do it? Where will you apply these phantom better skills, right? So we really have to discover who you are. What is your purpose, right? You have to wake up in the morning and know your purpose. So in a self-discovery session, we're going to sit down and we're going to determine, we're going to assess who you are right now. Who do you want to become? And for what purpose do you want to become this person, right? Now, we'll get into some goals, but there'll be specific goals. There'll be outcome goals, process goals, performance goals. They're called micro, meso, and macro goals, meaning a day or a week. I have a goal for tomorrow. I just want to eat better food. I have a goal for tomorrow. I'm going to not smoke a cigarette. I have a goal for tomorrow. I'm going to go talk to 3 people and my public speaking is going to get better. So what is those goals? And how do we make sure that we're accountable to our goals? So our self-discovery coaching session is going to be determine who we are, identify who we are, determine who we want to become. Why do we want to become that? And then what are those obstacles, those 5 dark warriors? What are those that are possibly obstructing me right now? Why have I not accomplished it already. Once we know that, we can design a personal development plan. And then a personal development plan could be 1 week, it could be 100 years. It depends on the person and their evolutionary process. And the word is called iterative, meaning it can go back and forth. So we go from self-discovery into personal development into performance enhancement. Now we've mastered everything that we can do. We want to develop further. So we'll come back into the personal development phase again and start to develop other things that complement or contrast the things we're already good at and also are intent on making us better. Now, should we already have accomplished everything we want to accomplish, then we probably have another purpose. So we need to look back and see what that is. Again, when someone retires, what was their purpose? My personal purpose early was to help people and to grow and to do these things. Then my purpose was to just kick back and enjoy the ride. And then my purpose was to come back and make the world a better place. So your purpose can vary, but it's not going to change like, this week, next week, the week after that. If that's the case, then we haven't done our job in the self-discovery section, because we really have to understand what it is you want out of life and why you want it, right? And is there anything else that you want more than that? And if the answer is no, then we focus on that. If the answer is yes, or I don't know, then we don't focus on that. We focus on finding what it is that's the most important thing for you to accomplish in your life. Who do you want to become? And how do you know you want to become that person? And who are you now? So this is what happens in a self-discovery session.
That seems really interesting, and I'm sure that my audience watching this will definitely look into that for sure. I'll put more details in the description below so they can check it out and see if this is something that they want to do. I'm sure that what they'll get out of it is so much, and it's something that will really change their life and make a difference for them. And the importance, we talked about mindset and reaching your full potential. But when someone has self-doubt and negative self-talk as they're going about their day, as they wake up in the morning, what sort of steps do you suggest those people take to kind of eliminate self-doubt and boost their confidence and look at themselves as a more highly talented individual or a better individual?
Okay, so it gets very interesting, the self. And in fact, the first chapter of the book is called The Self, an exclusive and elusive entity, because it's the hardest thing to do is actually to really discover ourselves. And so what you're talking about is a few variables. So there's one called self-confidence, right? That means I'm confident that I can be real in the room. There's self-belief. I believe I'm capable. And there's something called self-efficacy. And it means I believe I can do the specific task. I may not believe in myself in anything else, but I can, I'm a cook. I believe I can cook the best steak ever. I'm not really a cook. I'm using an example, but I do like steak. And so I could cook the best steak ever. But does that mean I can cook the best shrimp? Does that mean I can bake the best cake? Well, I don't believe I can bake a cake, but I believe I can grill a steak very good. So this is self-efficacy. And so to empower someone's self, you have to actually drill down to where is the deficiency. And so is it a limiting belief? I don't believe I'm good enough at 1, 2, 3. Well, how do you know you're not good enough at 1, 2, 3? What evidence do you use to suggest that you're not good at it? And then, okay, if you were good at it, what would that look like? How would you explain to me that you know you're good at it? Tell me something you know you're good at and why you know you're good at it. So we start to drill down as to what it is that you actually is causing this, either this negative thinking, negative emotion, this limiting belief. And it's probably one of those three things when it comes to the self, the doubt. So to overcome it, we have to remove what's causing it. And then when we remove what's causing it, we have to reinstill or reprogram a different path that gives you another outlook. So there's something called reframing, and you can context or content reframe, right? So then there's something called restructuring, right? And so restructuring means we completely tear it all the way down and we rebuild something in its place. Reframing means we don't think of it in that manner anymore. We think of it in a different manner, right? So depending on the severity, the individual situation, and what the root cause of the doubt is, will determine the steps that I could say to someone, this could help you. In general, it'd be easy to just say, use better positive words, use self-talk. The same platitudes that people hear every day on YouTube or read on Instagram and go, well, this is not working. It's not helping me. Of course it's not, because it's just general mass stuff, right? If your limiting belief was that simple, right, it would have been gone a long time ago, but it's there. So that means it's rooted into there. So me telling you something on the surface is never going to get to the root. We have to get to the root. And once we get to the root, then we can rebuild the surface.
That's a great way to put it. I really like the way that you you said about getting to the root. And I think mindset, like we talked about, is extremely important in eliminating negative self-talk and negative belief. It's all something that is not real. It's kind of like a perception that we have to get rid of. And someone watching this who, as we talked about earlier in the episode, is inspired to want to become an NLP master coach and a certification trainer like you, is there anything that you would recommend they keep in mind as they embark on this journey?
Yes, of course. Just one thing to touch on what you just said, and therein lies the rub, right? There is the most powerful thing that someone should take away from today is that all of these things that we're talking about, if you're looking at them from the conscious level, that's difficult. It has to take place in the subconscious level. The subconscious level is 10 times stronger than the conscious level, right? So if we empower ourselves to have these beliefs on the subconscious level, then they're instilled in us. They're automatic. If we try to drill ourselves, positive self-talk, and do all these things on the conscious level, they're only on the surface level. So I might be able to beat something that day, but what about the next day and the next day and the next day and the next day? And what happens when I get tired of trying to beat it consciously? Because unconsciously, it's still there. Yeah. So we have to affect it on the subconscious level. That's the priority. And that's the beauty of what NLP can do. It works on the subconscious level. A lot of coaching programs that are out there, I don't want to mention any by name because I don't want to, disparage any type of program, but there's a lot of coaching programs that focus on the surface level. They try to make you consciously do something, but you're never going to do it consciously if it's not embedded subconsciously. Operating consciously is a temporary fix. It's like putting Band-Aid on a gunshot wound, right? Yeah, you might stop the bleeding for an hour, but if you don't go get surgery and you don't get that thing taken care of and get the bullet removed, guess what? Right? Bad things are going to happen. It's not going away. The wound is going to be there forever. So you have to get to the subconscious level. Now, if someone is interested in becoming a coach, so there's a few paths in NLP, a few pathways in NLP, and there's many trainers, and some are good and some aren't as good. So Some are really focused on the sales aspect of it and just want to make the money. And some are actually focused on really trying to help you become a better version of yourself. So you can do it from a personal development standpoint. The history of NLP was from Santa Cruz, California, was where it was its origination point took place. And it was based off of Gestalt psychology and off of linguistic patterns of speaking. So if you want to know NLP and the tools for yourself, for your children, for how to communicate better at work or your spouse, there's a level one. It's called NLP practitioner, right? And that would be all you need. And your journey doesn't have to go far. If you want to actually coach some people, apply it, then you would want an NLP practitioner level and an NLP coach practitioner level. If you want to do like corporate training or you want to become a coach and you really want to affect strong evolution for people and you really want to embark powerful breakthroughs in people, then you're going to need the master's level. And so you're going to become a master practitioner, an NLP master practitioner, NLP master practitioner coach, right? That's the level two. Now, a trainer in NLP is someone, and myself is a trainer in NLP. So I certify through the American Board of NLP and the Society of NLP. I have both. You certify the level practitioner and the master practitioner. So as a master practitioner coach, a trainer, such as myself, can certify you as a master practitioner coach. You have to, there's time limits and requirements and testing, and there's, a lot of material to cover. The practitioner level takes about 6 days to complete your 3 days on, and then I'm sorry, 7 days to complete your 3 days on, 1 day off, 3 days on. Sometimes we do it where it's just a straight 5 days, and you're in the course from 9 in the morning until 7 or 8 o'clock at night to do it. It's very intensive learning. The master practitioner course is 11 days, and it's the same. You're in there from 9 in the morning until about 8 in the evening. And there's breaks, of course, for lunch and coffee breaks and stretch breaks and that type of stuff. It's a very immersive, intensive learning. But you come out of there with all the tools and techniques. You have the manuals. You have everything you need. And you're certified as a practitioner or as a master practitioner in NLP. Now, to become a trainer at the level that I'm at, then you would need to go farther onto that. And there's some rules are 18 days, and if you drop a couple of tools out of there and just do presentation, SNLP you can do in 16 days, and ABNLP you need 18 days. And so this is the process on how to become certified in NLP. Now, if you just want to understand it and learn it, then you can hire a coach and just get coached in NLP. And just say, I just want coached in NLP for a specific thing. And then the coach can apply the right tool for what you need to know. And you can bespoke it out. You can start to customize it out for yourself. So that's really the pathway for NLP.
In Mobius Phoenix, there is one four-pillar development model that you are aware of and you kind of explain in Mobius Phoenix. So, for my audience who are unfamiliar with this, can you please explain your four-pillar development model and how this will eliminate barriers and perceptions leading individuals to reach their full potential?
Yeah. So a long time ago, maybe 30 years ago now, I set up what I believed were the four pillars for human development. And I still believe this. There's a little bit of additions to it now, but I still believe this as the basic foundation. I believe the four pillars are martial, cognitive, spiritual, and physical. So martial, I believe it goes to the mindset. You have to have a mindset to fight for what it is that you want. what it is that you believe and how you're going to achieve it. And even in the physical aspect, you also need the mindset to be able to defend yourself and defend the people you love or the things that you care about. So having a willingness to fight for what you believe in. It doesn't have to be a physical fight, but it might be. But it has to be a mindset that I'm going to fight for what I want. Yeah. So this is Marshall. Cognitive. I come from the camp of thinkers, and I actually have a slogan on my hotel that says the thinkers always win. And I'm a firm believer that you need strong thought processes. You need critical thinking. You need Socratic questioning. You need to understand the concepts, the logic, the knowledge. Now, you also need to be able to apply that knowledge because knowledge, they say, is power. And it's the application of knowledge, it's the power. And if you go a little bit farther, there's a guy named Benjamin Bloom that has something called higher order thoughts and lower order thoughts. His higher order thoughts will tell you that the construction of knowledge, the ability to piece it all together to form new knowledge, is actually where the ultimate power resides. And I believe this is in the cognitive form. So I believe you have to try to be smarter and you have to try to think the best that you can. Spiritual. So, as we mentioned before, purpose. So, there has to be a purpose. And it doesn't matter to me or to you or to another person what someone else's spiritual guide tells them that they believe is a higher power. For some people, like I mentioned, I like science, so science is an ultimate higher power for me. I want to see the evidence. However, for other people, they just believe in a certain thing. And the faith doesn't mean it's a deity or a god or the number of gods. And again, 192 countries, many different ones. So it means that you believe in a purpose, a reason that you're going to do what you're going to do. And so this is where the emotional realm comes into play. And this is where the emotional intelligence comes into play. If I'm very spiritual, then I have empathy and I'm in touch with my emotions. The fourth pillar is the physical. Now, like it or not, we all are judged and make judgments on our appearances. This is the physical body. Also, our functional systems are physical. So if we want to walk, we want to hike Mount Kilimanjaro, we want to kayak in the sea, we want to snow ski, we want to walk to the toilet from the kitchen table. We need to be able to have the physical ability to do it. Now, I'm not talking about disabilities. There are disabilities, of course, and there's disabilities in every one of those four pillars. Those are disabilities, and those are addressed separately. But for the functional four pillar, these are the same for everyone across the board. The how you accomplish them might differ, but the ability to use your physical structure for its maximum capacity and to keep it in the best condition that you can is where our longevity comes into play. Those are the four pillars.
So we are reaching the end of this podcast episode, and I would like to ask you one question, Joe, that I asked all of my guests, or at least that I can remember, is if you could voice one unique message to the world, what would it be?
There is no failure. There's only feedback. All feedback is productive.
All right, that concludes the interview section of the podcast. Thank you so much, Joe, for your time. It's been a pleasure having you on.
I appreciate the time and the exchange.
I'm sure that my audience loved this episode and loved what you talked about, your journey, your experience, and it's been super inspirational hearing from you. And for my audience who's new to the channel, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video. And I'll see you all for the next episode. Goodbye.